Okay, so we have a power washer today, and he says it's surging and hard to start. And the first thing we want to do when you're working on a power washer is make sure you hook a hose up to it. That way you're not burning up the pump when you're testing. We're going to check the oil, the standard stuff, just to make sure that we don't hurt it. Okay, so it's got oil, but it's really dirty. Now he says this thing has surged since the day he bought it. So as soon as I get this thing started, if it starts, then I will turn the water on. So we'll put it on choke, fuel on. Switch is on. So I don't know if it was that hard to start. I mean, he's an older fella and it may just be hard to pull for him. But it started, I think, on the third try. I don't know, I'll have to go back and watch the video. Third or fourth try. It is surging. So I'm gonna start with the carburetor. And since the oil is so black, it was really dirty. I'll probably just go ahead and do some sort of minor service on this, depending on what it needs. Spark plug, adjust the valves maybe. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start removing the carburetor. Take the air filter off first. Got two 10mm nuts. Oh, got one on top here. So we got our crankcase tube that we want to make sure we don't forget to put it back on. As I was removing that linkage, this spring I noticed was off. And this spring, what it does is take the slop out of the linkage. And so that can cause surging, believe it or not. But we'll go ahead and continue. Okay, I'm going to shut off the gas for a minute, but I do think I'm going to drain it. It looks a little yellowish. Okay, so I've put some chainsaw hose inside the hose. That helps me drain it. And we got a jar here. We'll fill it up and see how it does. Okay, so it is a little yellow. It should be absolutely clear like water. And that's kind of like, you know, urine. So we'll go ahead and change out the gas also. I don't think that's enough discoloration that it would be surging like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and disassemble this carburetor and see if we can figure out if there's any constrictions. The bowl looks really good. We'll get this gasket out of here. You never want to use carburetor cleaner on the gasket because it can swell up and you can't use it. Okay, so now we're going to remove the pin for the float. Take that out of there. The float comes up, and then you have a little needle valve, and this one has a spring on it right there, and so you're going to want to make sure that you don't lose that spring. So I'm just going to leave it to the side. This actually looks really clean. Okay, so now we're going to take out the emulsion tube, and you got to unscrew it from in there. So you're going to want a pretty thin screwdriver. So I have a set, of course, that comes in the, you know, the Walmart brand tools. That always works for me. Now this is made out of brass, so you want to be careful that you don't strip it. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking to see if these holes here are clear. And there is one that is clogged, just one. The second one down right here from the lip here, that one's clogged. Then we'll take a look in the Okay, so now I have my torch tip cleaner, and see if we can find one that's going to fit in these holes. This one I think is too big. I got another set. For these side holes. So we're just going to go through each one of these holes, and there's another set on, you know, on the other side of holes. Okay, now I'm gonna start squirting some carburetor cleaner in it. We're gonna want to make sure that our shutoff valve here on the carburetor is open. Okay, on this particular carburetor, there is an additional area that we want to get cleaned out. There's a port inside this piece of plastic here, so we got to take the throttle out and remove that port. And you had this adjusted all the way in, so we're going to have to try to find a good throttle position for it. Okay, so we'll start reassembling. Put the emulsion tube back in. Put the retainer in. Okay, so I'm going to reassemble this spring the way it's supposed to be. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put the air filter housing back on, get our gasket back on. Make sure that when you put your gasket on, you line up any extra holes to holes they have in the carburetor, like that. Make sure we get our vent, or crankcase vent tube back into the overhead valve cover. Okay, I think we got the problem resolved now. Yeah, I think what it was, I'm sure what it was is that little black piece that we had to pop out and clean out the little port. That was the issue. It was clogged. I'm positive of it. Okay, I had to get the swivel out for this one. Okay, let's go ahead and change the spark plug. Okay, so we're going to gap it 30 to 35. That's good. Now, this one's hard to reach down in there. And what I've seen a lot with these pressure washers is they get cross-threaded, and people just go ahead and continue cross-threading it, and that ruins the head. So if you can't do it with your fingers or with turning the socket, you need to stop, reevaluate what you're doing. See how easy it is for me to turn this by my fingers? That's exactly how it should go in. And then make sure it's always seated before you put your socket ratchet on it. Okay, now we're going to check the valves. The gasket is still good on that. So we want to turn the engine until one valve is all the way down, the other valve is all the way up. Okay, that valve is going down. This valve is up. So we're going to go to 4 to 6 thousandths on the gap on the valve. Okay, so let's see, 6 does not go in. That's good. 4 does. Yeah, I went too far. Okay, so 6. Okay, on that one, we got to make an adjustment. So we're going to loosen the locking nut. Although, looks like we're going to have to hold the adjustment nut. Actually, I think what I'm going to try to do, instead of loosening it, since we know the locking nut is turning the adjustment nut, let's just see if we can. Yep, that works. So we'll put the 4 in. Okay, great. 4 goes in. 6 does not. So now I'll get a wrench to hold the adjustment nut. Check it again just to be sure. 6 does not go in. 4 does. Perfect. Okay, so now we'll put the valve cover back on. You got to put the crankcase vent tube back on, and then we'll put the oil plug back in. Okay, so I think that fixes our machine. We get it serviced a little bit. The air filter was still good, so I didn't change that. So call the customer and let them know it's ready. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So I hope this video helps you work on your equipment under the shade tree. Thanks for watching.